I asked if I might understand this, and it said to me, the one is a sovereign that has nothing over it. It is God and parent, Father of all, the invisible one that is over the all, that is incorruptible, that is pure light, at which no eye can gaze. Now, what we do automatically is we translate this into our system rather than letting it stay in the system, rather than letting it define its own terms. Don't do that. The one is the invisible spirit. We should not think of it as a god or like a god, for it is greater than a god, because it has nothing over it and no lord above it. It does not exist within anything inferior to it, since everything exists within it, for it established itself. It is eternal, since it does not need anything, for it is absolutely complete. It has never lacked anything in order to be completed by it. Rather, it is always absolutely complete in light. The one is illimitable, since there is nothing before it to limit it. Unfathomable, since there is nothing before it to fathom it. Immeasurable, since there is nothing before it to measure it. Invisible, since nothing has seen it. Eternal, since it exists eternally. Unutterable, since nothing could comprehend it to utter it. Unnameable, since there is nothing before it to give it a name. The problem is, you can say all these things, but you still don't have any positive revelation as to what this it is. We would not know what is ineffable. We would not understand what is immeasurable were it not for the one who came from the Father. This is the one who has told us these things to us alone. The Father is the one who beholds himself in the light surrounding him, which is the spring of living water and provides all the realms. He reflects on his image everywhere, sees it in the spring of the Spirit, and becomes enamored of his luminous water, for his image is in the spring of pure luminous water surrounding him. His thought became a reality. So the Father contemplates itself in the luminous water. His thought became a reality, and she who appeared in his presence in shining light came forth. So here is the first emanation. She is the first power who preceded everything and came forth from his mind as the forethought of all. Pronoia. Pronoia. One of the problems is most of these Greek words have translatable meanings, but in a lot of the translations, they're just kept in their Greek form because they become a substantival word, a name. So some of it will be forethought, some will just be pronoia, which means forethought. So her light shines like the Father's light. She, the perfect power, is the image of the perfect and invisible Virgin Spirit. She, the first power, the glory of Barbelo, the perfect glory among the eons, the glory of revelation, she glorified and praised the Virgin Spirit, for because the Spirit she had come forth. She is the first thought, the image of the Spirit. She became the universal womb, for she precedes everything. The Mother, Father, the first human, the Holy Spirit, the triple male, the triple power, the androgynous one with three names, the eon among the invisible beings, the first to come forth. Barbelo asked the invisible Virgin Spirit to give her foreknowledge, and the Spirit consented. When the Spirit consented, foreknowledge appeared and stood by forethought. This is the one who came from the thought of the invisible Virgin Spirit. Foreknowledge glorified the Spirit, and the Spirit's perfect power, Barbelo, for because of her foreknowledge had come into being. So this is the initiation of the emanation of the eons and their relationships to one another. So the Barbelo, the Father gazed into Barbelo with the pure light surrounding the invisible Spirit and his radiance. Barbelo conceived from him. So there's always an erotic, sexual overtone to what sounds like it wouldn't have any of that, but it does. And he produced a spark of light similar to the blessed light, but not as great. This was the only child of the mother father that had come forth, the only offspring, the only child of the Father, the pure light. So there's all this relationship. What I'm trying to get to is an important part here. You have different sets, and different groups of Gnostics sort of came up with different ideas here, but different sets of eons that come out of all of this. Seth gets involved in here someplace, even though there isn't a creation yet for Seth to exist in, but that's because the Seth that is the child of Adam is a reflection of a primordial Seth. Anyway, but here's the important part. The last of the eons, the lowest of the eons, so the one that's still a divine creature, a divine, not creature. See, we're using Christian categories. It's still divine. It's still part of the pleroma, but it's the farthest removed from the one, the invisible spirit, is Sophia, wisdom. Okay? So, now Sophia, who is the wisdom of insight and who constitutes an aeon, conceived of a thought from herself with the conception of the invisible spirit and foreknowledge. She wanted to bring forth something like herself without the consent of the spirit who had not given approval, without her partner and without his consideration. So the eons, to have balance, are in male-female pairs, depending upon the gender of the name, the Greek name that's been assigned to them. Which is really weird because sometimes Greek gender has nothing to do with gender at all. But anyway, Sophia is feminine. So she wants to do something separate from her partner. This produces instability in the pleroma. Okay? The male did not give approval. She did not find her partner, and she considered this, and she considered this without the spirit's consent and without the knowledge of her partner. Nonetheless, she gave birth. And because of the invincible power within her, her thought was not an idle thought. Something came out of her that was imperfect and different in appearance from her, for she had produced it without her partner. It did not resemble its mother and was misshapen. I'm reading straight from the Secret Book of John. Probably the best summary of a pure form of Gnostic mythology, cosmogony that we have. When Sophia saw that her desire had produced, it changed into the figure of a snake with the face of a lion. Its eyes were like flashing bolts of lightning. She cast it away from her outside that realm, so it's cast outside the pleroma, outside the fullness, so that none of the immortals would see it. She's embarrassed. She's produced a monster. She had produced it ignorantly. She surrounded it with a bright cloud and put a throne in the middle of the cloud so that no one would see it except the Holy Spirit, who is called the Mother of the Living. She named her offspring Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth is the name. This is the first ruler, the Archon who took great power from his mother. Then he left her and moved away from the place where he was born, so he's outside the pleroma. He took control and created for himself other eons with luminous fire, which still exists. He mated with the mindlessness in him and produced authorities for himself. And now there's this big, long list of authorities that Yaldabaoth creates. They are archons. Yaldabaoth stationed 7 kings, 1 for each sphere of heaven, to reign over the 7 heavens, and 5 to reign over the depth of the abyss. So what does he do? Yaldabaoth creates physical matter. Yaldabaoth is Yahweh. Okay? Yaldabaoth is the God of Genesis. He is a misshapen, ignorantly conceived offspring of one of the eons. That's who he is. Then check this out. When light mixed with darkness, it made the darkness shine. But darkness mixed with light, it dimmed the light, and it became neither light nor darkness, but rather gloom. This gloomy archon has three names. The first is Yaldabaoth. The second is Sakla. The third is Samael. He is wickedness in the mindlessness within him. He said, listen up here, folks. This is why I wanted to get to this. I know we're going a little bit over, but he said, I am God, and there is no other God besides me. Straight quote out of Isaiah. Since he did not know from where his own strength had come. This is Gnostic cosmology.